guys, welcome back. It's just be kind of like a vloggy thing for you today. Had a really interesting day over on the other channel. Ended up dumping a mass of stuff on these people. Didn't mean to. After I've been gone for so long. Dropped like a let's play on them. Then found out a FNAF thing had changed, so I dropped that on them. Then I found out about FNAF Cell, and I dropped that on them. So they got like 3 videos dropped on them. And then I meant to have a video launch tomorrow and a video launch Monday, and because YouTube will not let you take back a video you accidentally launch, I ended up having to launch them both today because the second chapter is the one that I accidentally launched, and it would not let me play backsies. So they got 5 videos in one day after not seeing me for a couple weeks. So I'm sure that was like overwhelming, and they're melting down. And then today was very interesting. It was supposed to be 70, right? Like all these weather things have been talking about being 70 until like a day or so ago, and then they were talking about being cold. Well, it got up. I don't think it was much above freezing today. It was cold. And it was raining. And all the scarecrows were falling apart. So I had to put out a sign about them falling apart. And I put out the candy. I put a small bowl of candy out because I really don't get any trick-or-treaters. I always buy a massive bag and then I don't get trick-or-treaters. Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm having coffee. And I shouldn't buy a massive bag, but I do anyways. And, long story short, I only got one person, and it was an adult, and he was like trying to call his kid over to see the display. The kid was too scared. And he took the 2 little Freddy figures, but they didn't take any candy, and I was like, that's cool. So I ended up with my bowl of candy back, and Apollo had said, that's gonna happen. You watch, ha ha ha. And I was like, yeah, Apollo, right? Because he was like, wouldn't it be funny if you woke up tomorrow it was cold and raining? I'm like, it's not gonna be cold and raining, Apollo. It's gonna be warm and dry, you see. Uh-huh. So Apollo was right. Yeah, like, argue with a god of prophecy. And I went to the church, and I got the $7 lunch, and I have that over on Patreon. I think I have it public so everybody can see it, but I was just so pleased with myself, because for $7, I don't know what stuff costs in your area, but it was like a quart of homemade chicken noodle soup, plus a sandwich, plus a drink, plus a dessert. So I got a quart of chicken noodle soup, and I got a all beef hot dog, and I got a big slice of cake. Like, you can make 2 slices out of it. Not that I did. I got a drink, you know, a Pepsi. So to me that was like a lot of money for $7. Yeah, a lot of money, a lot of food for $7. And I enjoyed that. And we came home, and then the Halloween happened, and it ended up I didn't give out any of the candy. And then the poor people on the other channel, I bombed them with all those videos. So it's been an interesting day, and Loki's been running around with his tail fluffed out because he's up to something. And I'm like, oh no, now what? And he's like, guess what would make people really mad? I'm like, besides having Apollo around, what? And he comes up and he tells me something. I'm like, you're right, that would make people mad. He's like, let's try it for an hour, okay? And I'm like, fine, okay, we'll try it for an hour. And we tried it for an hour, and it was interesting. Because, long story short, someone had been threatening me, so Loki's like, you know what? We're gonna talk to your ex about this. I'm like, cool. So we talked to the ex about it. And that was very interesting. Because if you think Loki's scary when he smells, you should see the X smell. And I shouldn't call him the X, that's mean, but, you know. And Loki tonight, while I was doing my, spiritual bath, he's like, remember how I make you hold the promises? Yes, why are we being so cute? Remember all the promises you made? Yes, but those aren't, oh, Loki. So he's been having fun with that. So he's been running around, stirring up all the energy in the house and running around like crazy. And if you talk to Loki, Loki doesn't care who you work with. He doesn't care who you worship. He doesn't care what your personal belief system is, but you have to own it, and you can't use it to attack people. You can't, for example, make being a Lokean a platform to attack Odinists, or being a pagan a platform to attack Christians, because he will bring it back on you. He will. And, you know, he will make you own the mess you made. He won't fix it for you. I know. And you know, it's funny, they always talk about proverbial fluff bunny Wicca, but I never met that goddess. I never met the goddess that will let you do anything and fix it for you. The goddess I met was like, I'll give you enough rope and you can hang yourself with. That's the goddess I worked with. And it was just very interesting, because we went on our little travels today on the cyber river of craziness. And we came up with a few things, and we were working with that, and we're batting it back and forth. We're currently in R&D stage. So we're working on that, and it's intriguing, because I was taught as a witch that you do you. Everyone else can do them. Don't use you to attack people, and don't let anyone tell you how to do you. Like, don't let anybody force a label on you, or run up and grab your label and run away with it because they don't believe you deserve it, or they don't believe you have the right to it, or they don't believe whatever. And the funny thing with him bringing the X back is, when he brought the X back, and I was doing some research today, you could kind of see the agendas of people a lot faster. Usually with Loki, it's pretty fast. With the X round, it was like one sentence in, and I could already feel the agenda this person had, and I was like, yep. And it wasn't me looking for a fight, and it wasn't me jumping to conclusion. It was like, yep, these people are really hateful people. All they want to do is spread, you know, hate and fear, and, you know, be warmongering, and they don't want peace between people. And they're not, at least some of them are honest. Some of them are like, we need total war, we need to wipe them out. And I'm like, wow. Wow, that's your solution? You do know what, you know, like, genocide stuff is, right? Because that's basically what you're suggesting, Adolf. And it's kind of scary, because a lot of it is coming up in the pagan community, and it's coming up in pagan articles about cleansing paganism of certain people. And I'm like, wow, when did we get in the time machine and go back to Germany? You know, go back to Nazi Germany. I'm like, this stuff is getting a little scary. And before you go, well, you know, other religions do the same thing. Yeah, they do, but two wrongs, as my mother would say, don't make a right. If two people are being stupid and wrong, it doesn't make either one of them right. It's not going to magically come together in the middle and make beauty. It's going to come together in the middle and make war. And I'm like, wow, where are people going to go today? They left one religion because they were having problems fitting in. They come to the other religion, they're told they don't fit in, go away. Where are people going to go? And I'm like, this explains why we have so many atheists today. I mean, if you're an atheist, I'm not, like, just guessing. But, you know, I've had atheistic tendencies in my life, and it's been because of people like that, you know, you can't be here because you don't do this, and then you go over here to be there, and then you got someone there saying, and you have absolutely nowhere to fit in. And so at the times that I did have a more atheistic bent, it was because I was expecting the impossible out of the gods. I was expecting the gods to come down and literally fix stuff, and literally make people, you know, take back what they said. The gods don't do that. They're not kindergarten teachers. They're not going to pull us apart and say, no, you apologize for what you said, and you be nice and give you a cookie. That, you know, the gods aren't going to do that. As far as I know, all the gods get along. And I really don't care who you worship, as long as you aren't, again, using it to attack people. If you're using it to attack people, unless your path specifically says, and that is your subset of your religion, you're probably doing it wrong. Um, I know there are, for example, some religions that go out and they recruit, and some people say no, shouldn't do that. Gods are grown-up gods; they can call people to themselves. And it was kind of funny that, all this happened, that thing happened, that, I had to leave the writing and the photography behind. I was kind of sour graping when I said I didn't have talent. I have talent enough to do both, but I had kind of a stalkery person bothering me that has mental health issues, so that's the actual reason I left. And so Loki's like, you know what, we're bringing the ex in, because I've had enough of this. And I can't seem to resolve it, so we're bringing your ex in, and the ex is going to resolve it, because the ex is not going to have any of this. And, it's been interesting, because I instantly felt all this energy just clear. It's like the only thing I can say, like every god you work with does have a unique energy pattern, and I just felt everything clear. It wasn't like the other gods cleared out. They're still here, their energy's still the same. But with the issue I was having with the stalkerish person being aggressive and, living in fantasy land, and saying we had this relationship we never had, just felt it clear. And I was like, oh. So that was interesting, because Loki was like, that is the one god that your attacker won't work with. That's the one god your attacker hates. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and we're going to bring this god in. You're going to work with the ex, and you're going to take advice, and you're going to, work with it. Because I left because I figured, well, it's like any other kind of stalker you have, whether it's real life or internet or whatever. If you know they're always going to be there lurking, you might end up just having to avoid a place. I don't want to, but I kind of have to. I've gone off before and not gone on for a long, long time, and then gone back, and it seemed like they didn't notice I was there, and then all of a sudden they notice you're there, and they're back to stalking you, and it's like, and he's like, you're doing this, you're working to like cleanse out the energy. Now that doesn't mean that if I went back, everything would be magically hunky-dory and I would be left alone. And it doesn't mean that, I'm ever going to go back to a place where the ex would be like primary god and everything. That's not going to happen. But it did mean he was like, that's what you were brought up in. That's what you had over a decade, like 2 or 3, whatever decades, memory shot, of training in. And that's what you can work with very well. So that's what we're gonna do here. And he did it because he wanted me to take the higher ground. He did not want me retrograding and becoming a very horrible person. He wanted me to become a better person. And the X is all about becoming a better person. It's not about becoming an evil person. I shouldn't keep calling him the X. I'm sorry. But I guess I'm just doing that so we all know where we're standing, and you don't all think that tomorrow I'm going to be dressed in my church and clothes or something. That's never going to happen. But it was good that it happened, because it helped me lay a lot of stuff to rest. And it helped me think that anybody that, would criticize me talking to the ex can go jump off a bridge and drown, even though he wouldn't approve of me saying that, sorry. But I distinctly heard I don't care. But, people shouldn't be in other people's business. There's a saying, I've told you guys before, mind your own knitting and they will mind theirs. If you aren't getting in other people's business and you aren't out causing trouble, most of the time they'll return the favor. You'll always run into a few jerks, but by and large, most people, if you aren't bothering them, they got better things to do than bother you. So it was interesting. And if you can see the individual tree and not look at the forest, you know, if you can take the God out of the religion and just deal with the individual as they truly are, as you truly experience them, then, you know, you can get a lot of rewards. I mean, we're all Lokeans because we can do that with Loki. We can take Loki out of the stories and we can love Loki and we can deal with him as an individual. We don't deal with him in the larger context of, he's the perennial bad guy and like he's damned for all time. When I was working in my old religion, you have to go through training up until like high school, and one of the things we had to do was, you know, work on whether Judas, because there are two distinct camps. There's one camp that Judas is a bad guy because he betrayed Jesus, and there's another camp that says that, you know, because Jesus spoke in so many euphemisms and so much stuff could have meant anything. And remember, the Gospels were wrote centuries after his death, that Judas was actually the good guy, and Judas was the guy he was referring to because someone had to. It had to happen exactly the way it did. You know how, like, everything in Harry Potter had to happen because of a prophecy? Where do you think they got that idea? He had to be handed over so it would be a fulfillment of the scripture, so it would be fulfillment of the prophecy. Now, that's terrible to be the person put in that position, to be the person told you have to go betray. And a lot of people think that, you know, Judas didn't fully understand what he was doing. That he might have thought, well, you know, he's kind of a loose cannon, they'll yell at him or something, but they'll let him go. Did not see what was coming. Because Romans could be pretty arbitrary in their justice, you know. So that's something to think of too. And we had to work with whether we thought Judas was, you know, doing something evil, or was he doing something good? And I worked with it a long time, and I worked with the ex on it because we had to write a paper on it. And I was like, you know what? The impression I got was that he did what he had to do. And he did what he had to do out of love because he was the one entrusted with it. So sometimes we're entrusted with doing stuff that we don't like to do, like, you know, going back and working with the ex to work some stuff out. But it worked out for the best, so it was interesting. And Loki is just very chuffed and pleased with himself because he got me to do the impossible. And he's all about that. He's about doing the impossible and doing what Loki says. Don't worry about what anybody else says. So it's been quite a day. And if you guys like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.